In this video, I'll go over my top 10 shortcuts in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I made a video like this back in October of last year, and since then, I've learned about a lot more shortcuts, and my opinions on some of the shortcuts on my previous list have changed. I don't have criteria this time around, I just want to showcase my personal favorite shortcuts and show why they're so awesome. So without further ado, let's start giving her, bud. Kicking off this list at number 10 is the Sweet Canyon ending Shroomless cut. This is one of the hardest shortcuts in the game, and for good reason. It's incredibly precise, so if you don't have the alignment down prior to attempting the shortcut, there is no way you're making it and you will not be giving her full throttle. Now, I do have quite a few difficult shortcuts on this list, especially on the lower end, but there are a couple reasons why this is number 10 rather than amongst the top 5. This is the most consistent method of the shortcut that I know of, and unfortunately, you have to perform a right hop where you should be executing something to the left. As a result, you have to lose a ton of time after the shortcut simply to realign. And even if this wasn't the case, this shortcut isn't much faster either way. These are two reasons why you'll never see anyone attempt a shortcut online. So while it is a hard shortcut, and it does feel really good making it, it is absolutely not worth going for, and you barely save any time at all for going for it. Coming in at number 9 is the Big Blue Section 1 Shroomless shortcut. I used to think this was only possible with a mushroom, but the way you execute it Shroomless looks pretty cool in my opinion. It's definitely one of the cooler looking shortcuts in this game for being one of the above average difficulty shortcuts. However, even more so than the Sweet Canyon ending cut, this shortcut barely saves any time, if any time at all. It's much easier, yes absolutely, but you still will never see anyone attempting this shortcut online. But because I personally find more enjoyment out of executing this shortcut over the Sweet Canyon cut, I gave this shortcut the edge. The two could be interchangeable, but yeah, the Big Blue Section 1 Shroomless cut comes in at number 9. Moving on, at number 8, we have the Dragon Driftway Gap Jump. This shortcut looks really difficult since there are a ton of inputs you have to get down to a science, but once you figure it out, it's really easy. What makes this shortcut pretty cool in my opinion is that it's very similar to the Mushroom Gorge Gap Jump in Mario Kart Wii in the sense that you can't take any half measures when it comes to covering distance. You just gotta go for it. I put this shortcut at number 8 because visually, the build up to the shortcut and the shortcut itself is very satisfying to watch in my opinion. But what brings the shortcut down a bit for me is that it's really easy and doesn't feel that special when you perform it. That's just my opinion though, as I'm sure some of you would consider this shortcut to be better than some of the others above this one. Regardless, the Dragon Driftway Gap Jump is pretty cool. Taking number 7 is the Cheese Land Cheese Cut. By hopping next to the right of the cheese, you can get a lot more air, and you'll maintain the speed from your Super Mini Turbo. This shortcut is a pretty cool one, but it's very difficult. I don't think I've ever made it perfectly since I always clip the off-road and lose my speed at the very end. I don't think that's enough to lose time over going around, but you definitely don't save as much time as you would if you got it as perfectly as possible. As you would expect by this is a reason why people don't perform this shortcut online. But honestly, Cheese Land is such a hard bagging track that even if this did save time and wasn't as difficult, this shortcut still wouldn't be all that relevant. But even so, I still think this shortcut deserves number 7. It looks cool, and it's really difficult. If only it had a bit more to it and saved a bit more time if you almost got it perfectly. Now we're getting into the shortcuts I really like. Coming in at number 6 is the Shy Guy Falls ending Shroomless cut. And my opinion on this shortcut has changed quite a bit, despite having more positive things to say about it. But because I got rid of the criteria and I'm being as subjective as possible, this shortcut comes in at number 6. This is one of the most satisfying shortcuts to pull off in the game, but the fast method is very difficult. However, if you aren't confident in your ability to perform the Mini Turbo method, the Super Mini Turbo method is the one for you. This method of the shortcut is much easier and is not nearly as precise. I personally always go for this method online because it's very accessible and very easy once you get the hang of it. But regardless of your preferred method, this shortcut is pretty cool and deserves its spot at number 6. Starting off the top 5 is the GBA Mario Circuit Glider Cut. This shortcut is pretty easy, but it looks awesome and it has a ton of depth to it. But what makes this shortcut interesting is that most people prefer to shroom tight and take the double box and the ending cut. But when you're taking the glider cut, you'll have a lot of time in the air and a lot of space to yourself. It's an interesting shortcut because of these dynamics. Do you want to remain on land to not get target shocked in the air and take the ending cut? Or do you want to take the glider cut and have a lot of breathing room and time to yourself while still risking a potential target shock? I believe the glider cut saves a tiny bit of time over staying on land if you shroom in the same spot, so it's definitely debatable what the right call is. It varies depending on the situation, but that's what makes this shortcut engaging and is why this shortcut earns an early spot in the top 5. And here's a shortcut that remains at the same spot as my list in 2020. Coming in at number 4 is the Mario Kart Stadium Glider Cut. There are multiple ways you can pull this sucker off, but I want to highlight the shroomless glider cut. This shortcut has so much depth to it, from holding your Ultra Mini Turbo, to making sure you hit the wall on the glider pad, to holding back in the air, as well as landing, whether you land early or not. It's definitely one of the longer shortcuts to execute in this game, but the result is so worth it, especially if you're front running. Of course, you can also perform this shortcut with one or more mushrooms, and you can really get ahead of the game by switching to motion controls on lap 3. I'll be uploading a video related to this topic within the next few weeks. But yeah, the Mario Kart Stadium Glider Cut is pretty awesome and absolutely deserves a spot in my top 5 shortcuts. Making it into my top 3 is my favorite shortcut for my top 10 shortcuts of 2020, the Dolphin Shoals Long Glider. This is a very unique glider cut since, just like the Mario Kart Stadium Glider Cut, there are many different ways you can perform this. I put this shortcut at number 3 rather than 4, however, since this shortcut feels more satisfying to pull off. With one shroom, you can make the glider cut, but it can be a little precise if you don't have multiple shrooms, so just keep that in mind. You can also perform this shortcut shroomless, but keep in mind that it's very difficult and not worth going for online. And while it isn't as popular as on Mario Kart Stadium, you can even perform this shortcut using motion controls. While I failed pretty miserably here, you can imagine how much time this saves, very similarly to Mario Kart Stadium. But all around, this shortcut is just a lot more fun to pull off in my opinion, which is why the Dolphin Shoals Long Glider makes my top 3 shortcuts. My second favorite shortcut in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the Grumble Volcano Ending Shroomless shortcut. This is an interesting case because at first glance, it looks like it has the same amount of depth as, say, the Cheeseland Cheese Cut, which came in at number 7. But hear me out. I think this shortcut has the perfect level of difficulty. Once you get a feel for it, it's not too hard, but it definitely isn't too easy. On top of that, you save a good chunk of time over going around, especially if you get the fast method. These points come together to make this shortcut feel super satisfying to make. However, you only get to attempt this on lap 3, which is why you never see people going for it online. The risk outweighs the reward tremendously, but my bias towards the shortcut can't help but keep it at number 2. It's just a really cool shortcut that has more depth to it than what meets the eye. But with that, let's see what my new favorite shortcut is in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. My favorite shortcut in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the 150cc version of the Big Blue Ultra shortcut. I didn't even know this shortcut existed until about 2 months ago, but once I got my hands on a clip, I was instantly intrigued. This shortcut has a lot to cover. You have to take half of the regular shroomless shortcut, then shroom while tricking off the ramp, then hold back and a little to the right while using your remaining 2 shrooms while just barely being able to land back on the track. As you would expect, this shortcut is never used online. While it saves nearly a second, it is way too difficult with the current method. But the fact that this is even possible on 150cc is truly amazing and makes this the easiest number 1 spot on any top 10 I've ever made in my life. It's just too sick, man. I know I said this for the Dolphin Shoals Long Glider in my last video, but I think this will stick when I say it now. I cannot see myself wavering on this not being my favorite shortcut anytime soon. It is just incredible, and in my eyes, it goes above and beyond what you can do with any other shortcut in this game. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. I felt like my first top 10 was very outdated, and I feel like this top 10 will age like fine wine. And of course, let me know in the comments what your guys' favorite shortcuts are, since I'm really curious. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, have yourselves a fantastic day, and keep on giving her, bud.